What's up, YouTube? How we looking? Coach Max here, back with another video. Today I've got another from the experiment/what-if pile. If you're looking at the footage and thinking it might have something to do with the Rising Stars Challenge, well, you would be correct. Now, while some might say that the Rising Stars Challenge is basically just the junior varsity version of the All-Star game, personally I've always liked it as a concept. There's something about taking the best rookies and sophomores in the NBA, putting them all on the floor, watching them go, and thinking about what the future may hold. Some might become bona fide all-stars, some might not. But one thing you can't deny, there's a lot of potential in this game, and as someone who's all about training and development and helping people realize their potential, it's pretty easy to see why this is a draw for me. The last couple of years have produced some absolutely amazing players, and many of the participants in this year's Rising Stars Challenge are already considered to be bona fide stars, or even on the cusp of being superstars, and they're all still getting better. And that got me to thinking, with the level of the talent in this year's Rising Stars Challenge, how would those teams hold up against the rest of the NBA? Well, with the power of NBA 2K and judicious use of the player DNA feature, we can do just that. So the NBA is going to be expanding this year, and the US and World teams are going to be joining the league. Sort of. Let's get started and I'll go ahead and explain. So you will see the 95-96 Sonics and the 01-02 Nets have been added to the league. They will be our stand-ins for the US and World teams respectively. Now, instead of taking the Rising Stars participants off of their respective teams and putting them onto the new teams, instead what I did was I used the player DNA function to clone all 20 of them, and I put those clones on the teams. So, for example, on the Utah Jazz you have Donovan Mitchell, and on the 95-96 Sonics you have his twin brother Donovan Mitchell II. Basically, every one of the clones has the second or something like that added to their name, so we can tell them apart from the actual players. I did a couple of other things along with them. I'll explain once we actually get to looking at the rosters. Now, I have turned CPU trade offers and injuries off, again, mostly to try and cut down on the amount of interruptions that we're going to deal with. Besides, we're not going to be trading any players. We have the US and World Rising Stars, and they're good enough to stand up against anybody. So one thing I've done with all of these players is I've made them all rookies and given them 2-year contracts. Reason for this is I want to see if they can actually make the all-rookie teams, or possibly even Rookie of the Year. The way I'm actually going to be doing these lineups when we go over the rotations means it's probably not likely, but hey, you never know. And I also have a few extra players here just because the rosters have to have at least 14, and there were only 10 participants on each team. So I ran ahead and grabbed some very low-end free agents, but they're not going to get any minutes, and that's immaterial. Let's go check out the rotations for both teams. As far as the rotations go, both teams will be running 10-man rotations, with the starters getting 28 minutes apiece, and the bench players getting 20. This is more or less in line with the Rising Stars Challenge, in which each player plays relatively equal minutes, though I am giving the starters a slight nudge in order to boost their chances of winning individual awards. Anyway, the starting backcourt for Team USA will be De'Aaron Fox and Donovan Mitchell, and then we'll have Jayson Tatum at the 3, Kyle Kuzma at the 4, and John Collins at the 5. So the starting lineup is small, but the bench is huge. Trae Young is the 6th man, followed by Jarrett Allen, Jaren Jackson Jr., Marvin Bagley III, and Kevin Knox, who was an injury replacement for Lonzo Ball. Fun fact, Lonzo Ball did make the Rising Stars Challenge in his rookie year, but also was injured and not able to participate. His replacement that year was De'Aaron Fox, and then we have a whole bunch of guys who are mostly just there in case a whole bunch of people foul out or something like that. Remember, injuries are off, so we're not going to be losing any of these guys to injury or possibly even fatigue or what have you. Now, the World team actually has most of their size in the starting lineup, which is kind of par for the course when you have Ben Simmons as your starting point guard. But we also have Bogdan Bogdanovic starting at shooting guard, then Luka Doncic at the 3, Lauri Markkanen at the 4, and DeAndre Ayton at the 5. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the 6th man, followed by Rodion Skarush, Cedi Osman, OG Anunoby, and Josh Okogie. So, looking at both teams, I think the US team will actually go a little bit further because they have more talent all around, with Kevin Knox being the only one who's not an 80 overall. But don't count out the starting lineup for the World team because you have Ben Simmons and Lauri Markkanen and Luka Doncic. That's pretty frightening, as well as DeAndre Ayton, even though he's not been performing that well this year. But with this kind of talent around him, you could probably expect great things. Also worth noting, both teams will be running the 7 seconds offense. This is not just because the Rising Stars Challenge is more about offense and not so much about defense, but weirdly enough, this seems to be the best system for both teams. I don't know whether it's because they're all young players, or because they're all offensive players, or whatnot, but that seems to be the case, so we're going to go with it and probably run up some high scores. I'm going to do a little bit more off-screen tinkering, and then we will be ready to get this show on the road. So, we're going to change things up a little bit here. Normally, we sim to February 3rd, the All-Star Draft, that way so we can see who gets selected where, but since this is about the young guys, we're going to go ahead and bypass that unless something really interesting happens that we have to show off. And instead, we're going to sim to February 14th, the day before the All-Star break. That way so we can take a look at all of the All-Star participants and see which of our guys made it into the Rising Stars Challenge, or if they even managed to break into the dunk contest or the three-point contest. It has happened a couple of times on my practice runs, so who knows, maybe lightning will strike twice. But really, this is just going to be a fun ride, so sit back and relax. Maybe I'll even actually do commentary the whole way through and see what happens. Anyway, without further ado, ready, break. Alright, so the US team is starting off not too great, but they do have a very good high-scoring game up against the Mavericks, if I remember correctly. I really have trouble telling the Mavericks logo from the Timberwolves logo sometimes. The colors are just too similar. We can't really switch teams in the meantime, so yeah, there's not really all that much to talk about. The US team is not doing as well as I thought, though they did get a win over the LeBron Lakers, so that's always pretty good to see. A 141-142 game against the Pelicans. That is high scoring, but that is what happens when you are running the 7 seconds offense. Everything tends to be really high. Yeah, there's not really all that much interesting happening. There's some wins happening here and there, and yeah, basically on that note, I'll go ahead and see you at February 14th. So, this is some of the weirdness you can see when clones are running around the NBA. The dunk contest this year will be Dennis Smith Jr., John Collins, and 2 Donovan Mitchells. Looks like the original Donovan Mitchell will have a very slight edge in this contest, but you never know how this pans out. The three-point contest I'm really only showing because Trae Young actually makes it in as a rookie, which is nice to see. The USA Rising Stars Challenge will have a little bit more craziness because once again we have the original Donovan Mitchell and we have our Donovan Mitchell, so 2 Donovan Mitchells once again in the USA, but that is not the half of it by far. Over on the world side, you have 2 Ben Simmons, 2 Luka Doncic, and DeAndre Ayton. I think that is your starting lineup right there, and that is very frightening to see. And then you also have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Okogie, and Bogdan Bogdanovic also making it for our side. Now, I know in some cases it looks like they wouldn't qualify for the world team. Basically, I had them do this because they were on the world team for whatever the reason. So, you know, that's kind of how it works. I think the world is pretty much going to dominate this Rising Stars Challenge, but we will see how it plays out. Now, a few other things that are worth noting in the award races. We have our version of Ben Simmons and our version of De'Aaron Fox in the running for Rookie of the Year. You can see Ben Simmons is averaging 16 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 7 assists, which is pretty modest for his stat line, but he's playing a lot less here than he would be in Philly. Our De'Aaron Fox is averaging 14.5, 3 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. Pretty nice, not pretty modest, but that's again, we're sharing the ball, everybody's getting time. So this is almost like a high school game, maybe. Wait, does high school even split the minutes that much? Maybe that's more middle school. Maybe that's more elementary school. I don't know. I like keeping the minutes split. I like making sure everybody gets some time, but, you know, you gotta play the best guys you can. Nothing else really in the award races. As far as the season awards go, I thought I saw one of us actually make it into Player of the Week. Oh, yep, I did see right. DeAndre Ayton was Player of the Week in November. I wonder what kind of games he had. I didn't really stop to check any of the box scores. Player of the Month is pretty much typical, and we have our Ben Simmons as the Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month in December, and De'Aaron Fox as the Western Conference Rookie of the Month. So that's probably why they've actually broken through and gotten some consideration, but it looks like one of the actual rookies is going to go ahead and kind of end up running away with that. That being said, let's take a look at our stats for the most part. I'm anticipating that some of the players' scoring numbers are going to be a lot lower than they might have been, and that's probably going to be kind of how it goes. Now, if I remember correctly, if we look at the career stats, okay, I thought that if you copied an NBA player, it also copied over their career stats, but I guess it didn't quite work that way. So, yeah, never mind then. For the USA team, Donovan Mitchell is leading the team with 18.5 points a game, which is probably not as well as he could be doing. I definitely want to take a look at the per 36 minutes just so you can see how much potential they've got going here. And then you have De'Aaron Fox, who's next with 14.6, then Kyle Kuzma with 14.2, Trae Young off the bench with 14. So as far as rebounding goes, John Collins is leading in offensive rebounds with 3.2 and 6.7. So he's averaging almost a double-double with 11.5 points and just under 10 rebounds. De'Aaron Fox is leading with 7.6 assists, as he should be as a starting point guard. Then Trae Young right behind him with 4.8. Nobody is really setting the bar on fire with steals or blocks, so that's a thing to be looking out for. But again, as I mentioned before, everybody's playing less minutes than they might normally on their respective teams, so obviously their stats are going to be a little bit down than what you're going to be normally seeing here. Taking a look over at the Nets, DeAndre Ayton looks like he's the one carrying this team. He is averaging a double-double with 18.5 points and exactly 10 rebounds. And then you have Ben Simmons with his stat line that we mentioned before. Luka Doncic is doing not quite as good as he might, going with 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. So the potential is definitely there to have the stat lines he's currently averaging now. Lauri Markkanen with 13.5 points, 7 rebounds, just under an assist. I could have sworn he was a little bit better of a passer. I could be wrong on that. Alright, so yeah, the raw numbers, they're down, obviously. If we take a look at the per 36 numbers, that paints a little bit better of a picture. DeAndre Ayton being a 23-point scorer, Ben Simmons averaging almost 20, and then if we go back to the U.S. team, oh yeah, Trae Young averaging almost 25 through his playing starter level minutes. Donovan Mitchell easily having 23 points. You know, John Collins averaging a good solid double-double with 15 points and just under 13 rebounds. So that's something that could be said. I mean, as I mentioned before, the lack of minutes are probably going to be what keeps them from winning individual awards, but we kind of want to see how the team is doing as far as the records go, and the answer is actually pretty decent. The USA team is in the Western Conference, which is much harder, or at least, you know, would be much harder. We've already kind of established in previous videos that the conferences are balanced. But anyway, the USA team is currently at 37-21 going into the All-Star break, very firmly holding on to that 4th seed, though the Thunder, Warriors, and Rockets don't look like they're giving up any of the first three spots that quickly. And if we switch over to the World team, they are not doing quite as well. They're at 31-27 and currently kind of in a fight for maintaining their playoff seeding. The balanced picture is actually a lot more, well, balanced over there, with the Bucks only having a couple of games lead over the Sixers, and then the Raptors, Wizards, Celtics, Nets, and the Bulls are currently in the playoff picture, which is always nice to see. That pretty much kind of covers that. I'm going to go ahead and sim to the end of the season, and we'll see where everything shakes out. Actually, just kidding, because there were a couple things I wanted to show off. The World team did beat the USA team in the Rising Stars Challenge, pretty much just as I predicted. If we actually look at the box scores, Luka Doncic was the leading scorer for the World, followed by Luka Doncic. Yeah, just kind of an interesting thing to note. And also, our Donovan Mitchell did win the Slam Dunk contest, so yeah, I did mention that the original Donovan Mitchell seemed to have an edge, but we ended up prevailing in the end. Okay, now we'll see you at the end of the season. Alright, let's see how the end of season awards shaped up. James Harden is your regular season MVP, scoring only 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 10 assists, to go with 2 steals, which is an impressive stat line for him. Luka Doncic is Rookie of the Year, averaging his normal stat line of 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Yeah, it is par for the course, but it is a par I will gladly take when those are the numbers. Dennis Schroeder is 6th Man of the Year. Looks like he got traded to the Spurs at some point, and he is averaging 16 points, 2 rebounds, and 5 assists off the bench. Good numbers. Giannis Antetokounmpo is Defensive Player of the Year, averaging just under 11 rebounds to go with 1.5 steals, 1.5 blocks, 22.5 points, and 5.5 assists. Looks like he does not do everything by halves, even though the numbers say he does. Jordan Clarkson is Most Improved, averaging 19 points, just under 3 rebounds, and just over 3 assists. Good numbers. I thought he was capable of doing just about that on the Lakers if he would get the ball more. Steve Kerr is Coach of the Year, leading the Warriors to a 61-21 record. pretty much, again, par for the course. Nothing really new here. Hopefully the All-NBA teams will give us something a little bit different to look at. Your All-NBA first team is James Harden, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Nikola Jokic. Your All-NBA second team, Russell Westbrook, John Wall, Paul George, Kevin Durant, and Joel Embiid. And your All-NBA third team, Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, Kristaps Porzingis, and Karl Anthony Towns. Your all-defensive first team is John Wall, Victor Oladipo, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Draymond Green, and Rudy Gobert. Your all-defensive second team, Russell Westbrook, Drew Holiday, Kawhi Leonard, Robert Covington, and Anthony Davis. Now the ones we're looking for, the all-rookie teams, Luka Doncic, Trae Young, DeAndre Ayton, Ben Simmons, and De'Aaron Fox. Those last two are Ben Simmons and De'Aaron Fox, so there we go, that's good to see. And the all-rookie second team are DeAndre Ayton, Marvin Bagley III, R. Donovan Mitchell, Colin Sexton, and R. Luka Doncic. So that means we have two Lukas, do we have two DeAndres? Yeah, we have two DeAndres, and then we also have Donovan Mitchell in there just for good measure. So very interesting all-rookie selections, all told. And yeah, that was pretty much exactly what I was going for when I made them all rookies. As far as the playoff picture goes, the U.S. team is the 4th seed, having to go up against the Utah Jazz, so it's going to be Donovan Mitchell versus Donovan Mitchell in the first round. Over on the East, the world team will be going up against the Bucks, which is a much harder matchup. I'm relatively optimistic about the U.S.'s chance to advance. Not so much about the world's, but we will see how it plays out. Before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at the stats one more time, just to see if anything different had actually changed in, the last week of the season. And it does look like Donovan Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox both scored a little bit more, but the stats are pretty much the same as we go all the way down. Yeah, not much has happened. It looks like one of our backup players actually did get a little bit of game time. Probably somebody fouled out when I wasn't looking. Not the Thunder. Switching over to the world team. Again, pretty much the same thing. DeAndre Ayton did actually average a double-double with 18.5 points and 10 rebounds. So, pretty good to see. Those offensive rebounding numbers are kind of nice, so what I want to do is actually check how that stacks up against the rest of the league, just out of curiosity. So, looking at the offensive rebound numbers, we have Andre Drummond, Hassan Whiteside, the regular DeAndre Ayton. Scroll down a little bit, we're in the... okay, there we go. So, John Collins leads the Rising Stars with 3.2 offensive rebounds, which is good enough for 16th in the league at that position. So, interesting to see. As far as actual rebounds, let's continue to scroll. I'm not even going to worry about points because we're nowhere near that. And he's 16th in rebounds in the entire league, which is interesting to see. Assists, we're probably going to have a little bit of a similar performance there. No, our De'Aaron Fox is 6th in the league in assists, tied with Lonzo Ball with just under 8 at 7.9. And then if we scroll down a little bit more, I think we have another one in there. Yep, Ben Simmons at 16th with exactly 7, tied with D'Angelo Russell and LeBron James. So, yeah, our people are definitely able to hold their own in this league at this point. But the real question now will be, can they actually turn it into a championship? So let's go ahead and find out. We're going to go ahead and sim the first round just to see if both of our teams advance. U.S. take 2 games, and it looks like the world's going to get swept. The world does get swept by the Bucks. The U.S. is on the verge of getting eliminated as well, and they do, losing to the Jazz in 6 games. So, not a great thing to see, but there is always next season, and part of the reason I did do next season is because with player progression, our players should be even more frightening to go up against. Let's go ahead and simulate the rest of the playoffs because they're pretty much going to play out as expected, or maybe not. The Jazz actually get 2 games on the Warriors, but the Warriors kind of come back and put an end to that nonsense. It's going to be Warriors versus Rockets in the Western Conference Finals, Bucks and Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Bucks just continue to run completely wild. It is possible they may win the title. Nope. They do take Golden State to 7 games, so that's always a very interesting matchup. Kevin Durant is Finals MVP with 26.3 points, 7 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. Well deserved, as the Warriors do get the three-peat. Now the big question for next season is, well, will the Warriors end up actually making it 4? I suppose would be the question that almost everybody asks. But the big question as far as us goes will be, how will the players progress, and can we actually put together a playoff run? I will go ahead and skip ahead to player progression because most of the rest of this offseason is not going to be exciting. I will see you there so we can take a look at just how much better our guys have gotten. On the US side, the wing duo of Donovan Mitchell and Jayson Tatum are very firmly entrenched, both at 89 overall, but we now have a starting point guard controversy as De'Aaron Fox and Trae Young are both 85 overall. I may need to rethink the lineup on this team, though for now I'm going to leave Fox in because I like his defense a little bit better. John Collins seems to have hit his limit, so he may possibly get replaced by any of Kyle Kuzma, Jaren Jackson, or Marvin Bagley. Kyle Kuzma already is his equal in overall, and Jaren Jackson and Marvin Bagley are probably going to end up overtaking him during the season. Jarrett Allen jumps to an 82, which is not quite good enough to get off the bench, and Kevin Knox even jumps up to a 78, making him a very capable backup. As far as the world side goes, the big side just gets absolutely more frightening. Luka Doncic is now a 91, Ben Simmons is now a 90, and then we have DeAndre Ayton at 88, and Lauri Markkanen at 84. But then things drop off a little bit there, though we have a soft landing with Bogdan Bogdanovic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander both at 80. Karush is at 77, as is Osman, along with Anunoby at 75 and Josh Okogie at 74. So the big four of the world side now has a couple of good, solid, complementary pieces in Bogdanovic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and slightly lesser complementary pieces in Rodion Karush and Cedi Osman. But OG Anunoby and Josh Okogie are probably not going to be significant contributors. But when you have that much of a starting lineup, do you really need them to be for the most part? Maybe just when they're, off the floor for a couple of minutes, which is what we would say if they weren't going to be spending a considerable amount of time off the floor in the interest of giving everybody equal minutes. So if anything else interesting happens in the offseason, I will show it off. If not, I will go ahead and skip right to the rotations for Season 2. So after a bit of thought, there is no change in the rotations going into Season 2, but I just wanted to show off this bench one more time. How crazy is it that we can have an 86 overall Trae Young, 84 overall Jaren Jackson Jr., 83 overall Jarrett Allen, and 84 overall Marvin Bagley III on the bench? That is crazy. 79 overall Kevin Knox is an afterthought on this team. I am hoping this team can go pretty far, but, there's only one way to find out, so let's go ahead and get to it. As usual, we're going to go ahead and sim to February, just before the All-Star break. I was almost going to say February 14th, but that's not the case of it at all this year. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Let's see how things play out. I'm anticipating a lot of W's. Anyway, I jumped the gun a little bit there. I was too enthusiastic for the W's, and hey, it kind of worked because we got 4 to start off with. And yeah, as soon as I said it, then we lose. But looks like we're about to put together another winning streak. Hopefully I didn't just jinx it once again. I did not just jinx it. We blew out the Raptors. We blow out the Nets. We blow out the Clippers. Okay, maybe 50 points isn't really a blowout. And things just keep going and going. Okay, now that we've lost again, I feel more comfortable saying I will see you guys at the All-Star break. So we're actually showing off the All-Star draft this time around for a couple of interesting things that have happened. And no, I'm not talking about Zach LaVine and Clint Capella making it. We have Ben Simmons as a starter on Team Giannis, and Ben Simmons as a reserve on Team LeBron. So one of our guys did end up making the All-Star game, and he gets to go up against his opposite number on the other team, which is, again, kind of interesting. I gotta admit, I'm having more fun with this clone thing than I thought I was gonna have when I started up this video. It's just become really, really amusing at this point. I don't know if it's because I'm recording this late at night or what, but yeah, very, very, very interesting. So let's go ahead and just sim through the rest of these games right here. This time I'm not gonna jump the gun. Ready, break. I just wanted to make sure I got that done for this part of the season, even though I'm just simming ahead, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games. And you can see that we're doing pretty well. We're already going to be clinching that 500 record, or at least the US team is. I keep forgetting that I've gotten both teams under my control here. So anyway, going into the All-Star break, the US team is at 44-15, which is really impressive. Good enough for the first seed in the West by a huge margin. I don't know why the Warriors have fallen off, but hey, they left the door open for us, and we are kicking that sucker down. As for the the World team, the fortunes aren't quite as rosy. They are at the bottom of the playoff picture, but still within it, with a 32-28 record. The Sixers, Raptors, and the Celtics are still kind of holding on to those top spots, though the Celtics may end up losing theirs to the Heat, or the Bucks, or possibly even the Magic, who have 34 wins and 28 losses as well. Kind of good to see there. So let's take a look at the All-Star participants and see if anything new has happened. In the dunk contest, no dual Donovan Mitchell here, but DSJ is in there, as is Marquise Chris and Miles Bridges. So those are a couple names I don't really see in the dunk contest. Good to see there. Trae Young in the three-point contest again, but one of our guys doesn't make it. Alright, so for the Rising Stars Challenge, we have Donovan Mitchell II, Jayson Tatum II, De'Aaron Fox II, so a little bit more representation on the USA side. And we have Shake Milton as a 79 overall on the Timberwolves. That is the Timberwolves logo, yes. Again, as I said, I sometimes have trouble telling the Timberwolves logo apart from the Mavericks logo, especially when they're small. And on the World side, we once again have 2 Luka Doncic's. We have Ben Simmons, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, DeAndre Ayton, Elie Okobo, Josh Okogie, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Lauri Markkanen II, and one of the rookies from before. I think he was the first pick. Oh no, he was a second-round pick, and managed to actually make it in there. Looking at the USA side, did any of those rookies actually make it? Okay, the number 1 pick actually did make it there. Okay, that's just a little bit of curiosity as far as the Rising Stars Challenge goes. Now, this time I don't think the world is actually going to win it, but let's actually simulate and see what happens. No, the world actually completely demolishes the USA, even though we had more representation in there, it just was not enough. I wonder how the box score actually panned out. And Jayson Tatum was the leading scorer with 20. The world, I'm not sure how the world actually scored as well, but then again, the USA had only 3 people in double digits, while the world had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in double digits, and then Elie Okobo just missed by 1 point. So I guess when you have that many people in double digits, it doesn't matter if they're 20 or 30, it's going to do something. And in fact, we have Shake Milton from getting only 1 point. You know what it means when you only get 1 point in a game. It's not good to see. Anyway, that is pretty much all we need to worry about. I'm not going to worry about the performance of our Ben Simmons in the All-Star game. Let's go ahead and sim to the end of the... Wait, no. I do want to check the season stats and see if there's been any improvement on either side. And it looks like Donovan Mitchell did have a little bit of improvement as far as his scoring goes. Now he's at 19.2. Again, this is only playing 28 minutes a game. So if we went to the per 36, Trae Young would be doing much better, but Donovan Mitchell would have 23.5, which is still good to see. And I didn't mean to go to PER there. Okay, and then if we switch over to the World team, DeAndre Ayton is very clearly averaging his double-double with 19 points and 11.2 rebounds. Ben Simmons is averaging his normal stat line, 16.5 to go with 6.3 and 7.8. Luka Doncic is doing well, so everybody's doing well, but they're doing about what they had before. Did any of the backup players on the bench get any minutes? Doesn't look like it, so okay, there we go. So not too much change in the stats, a little bit of improvement, mostly in the records. And it really shows with the US team. Hopefully the World team will actually still stay in the playoff picture, because I'd like to see them both make it again. So as I said before, we're going to go ahead and get towards the end of the season. If if anything else interesting happens, I'll let you know. In the meantime, I will see you there. Alright, this time around, Giannis gets his MVP with 28.5 points, 12 rebounds, and just under 6 assists to go with 1.5 steals and 2.5 blocks. So maybe he'll end up getting Defensive Player of the Year on top of this. The first pick was the Rookie of the Year. The first round pick, he was the first pick overall. Anyway, De'Aaron Fox, the original, is 6th Man of the Year, which is weird. I could have sworn he was starting, but he is coming up with 13 points, 3 rebounds, and 6.5 assists off the bench. So good on him, I guess. And I was right, Giannis Antetokounmpo is Defensive Player of the Year with that stat line we mentioned before. Clint Capella wins Most Improved, getting 18.5 points and 14.5 rebounds to go with 2 blocks and 65% shooting from the field. I wonder how big of an improvement that actually is. Let's take a look, see. So, yeah, apparently last year he was only averaging 15 points, but he still got 13 rebounds. So, it's a little bit less Most Improved and more he went back to the season he did just 2 years ago. I really don't know what to say about it, but hey, you know, I like Clint Capella, so I'm not going to complain about him getting an award in any capacity. And Brett Brown leads the Sixers to a 64-18 record, so that's a pretty dominant hill to overcome over in the Eastern Conference. So let's take a look at the All-NBA teams. Your All-NBA first team is Russell Westbrook, Stephen Curry, Giannis Antetokounmpo, LeBron James, and Karl Anthony Towns. And then your All-NBA second team, James Harden, Ben Simmons, the original, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, and Nikola Jokic. And your All-NBA third team, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, Paul George, Blake Griffin, and Nikola Vucevic. Your All-Defensive first team, Russell Westbrook, Victor Oladipo, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kawhi Leonard, and Anthony Davis. And then your All-Defensive second team, Chris Paul, DeJounte Murray, Paul George, Draymond Green, and Rudy Gobert. And we're not going to care too much about the all-rookie teams because there aren't really any names that are worth noting there, with the exception of Jacob Evans and Emile Jefferson. They were originally draft picks this year in real life, so obviously they didn't get to play last year, but they actually managed to break in this time around. As a matter of fact, I didn't realize we were on the per 36s there, so I may have gotten Clint Capella's stats wrong there. But Jacob Evans contributed about 7 points off the bench for Golden State. Not bad. What about Emile Jefferson? Averaging about 5 points for the Wizards. Yep, not going to complain there. That's perfectly fine. So, taking a look at the records here, or rather, we will take a look at the records in just a bit. The U.S. completely dominated the Western Conference with a 62-20 record. It was not close. The rest of the conference was pretty much a bloodbath. The Warriors actually did manage to battle back to take the second seed, but too little too late. We are the dominant force. As far as the world team, they do manage to get the 4th seed. It was pretty touch and go there, but then the Sixers just completely ran away with it. The Raptors did their best to follow, and then we managed to turn things on in the last part of the season to clinch that 4th seed. So we've got good seeding in the playoffs here. Hopefully it will be leading to good things as far as matchups go. So the U.S. goes up against the Clippers. Not too much crazy over in the Western Conference, though we do get another Warriors versus LeBron in the first round. Over in the East, the Heat are actually the 3rd seed, which is good to see. The Magic actually make the 7th seed, but the world team has a very big hurdle to overcome because they have to take on the Celtics, and then they have to take on the winner of the Sixers versus the Nets. So if the world team can get out of the second round, I think they're probably going to actually make the finals. But only one way to find out. I know I've said that at least 3 times here. That's kind of what happens with my lines when it's really, really late. Let's see the current round and see what happens. It does not look good for the world immediately. They lose the first game. It doesn't look good for the U.S. They look like they're about to get swept. Okay, nope, they do take a game. Thank heavens. But they get completely dismantled by the Clippers. And that's got to be a very, very heartbreaking thing. If any of these teams were to progress, I would have figured it was the U.S., but it's actually going to be the world team that beats the Celtics and moves on to the conference semifinals against the 76ers. Wow. Anyway, Let's simulate the current round again and see what happens. I'm hoping the Clippers actually do really good, because I would hate for them to get eliminated in the second round after they completely dismantled us. And it looks like we're gonna get their wish. They're gonna get to the conference finals, and the world team gets eliminated by the 76ers. So we have Warriors versus Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, and Sixers versus Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Very interesting matchup. Let's go ahead and simulate the round once again, because I kind of want to see how this plays out. And it looks like the Bucks sweep the Sixers, going to the finals for the second straight time, and the Warriors have a chance to make it 4 championships. Let's see what happens. It's going to be a pretty amazing feat either way. The Bucks hang in there, but manage to lose in 6 games. The Warriors win their 4th championship in a row. Pretty impressive considering they looked down and out in near the All-Star break. And Stephen Curry is once again your regular season, your finals MVP, with 34 points for the series to go with 4 rebounds and 7 assists. And that's only shooting 37% from 3. Imagine if he shot his normal percentage, how lopsided that score might have been. So there you have it. That is what would happen if we put the Rising Stars against the rest of the NBA. Did they hold their own? Yeah, I think so. The fact that both teams made the playoffs in 2 seasons definitely tells me that, there's plenty of good things. I was very surprised that the world team managed to advance, whereas the U.S. team, which was much more stacked, didn't, and in fact got completely destroyed by the Clippers in rather humiliating fashion. But, they went on to the conference finals and got destroyed by the world champs, so I guess that's just the case of the 8th seed being a lot more powerful than they look, something the Warriors should be familiar with. Anyway, that's been a lot of rambling. This has actually been a pretty fun experiment, though I will admit it's partially because of the possibility of cloning. It's definitely something I'm going to do again at some point in probably a different capacity. But for now, let's bring it in. If you managed to stick with me the whole way through, thank you very much for watching. I definitely appreciate it. If you do like what you see and want to leave some feedback, definitely hit that like button, definitely leave a comment. And if you really want to help this channel grow, the best way to do that is, of course, hitting that red subscribe button and turning on post notifications so you can be among the first to be noticed when I upload things. I do try to keep a very consistent schedule. Usually Friday afternoons is for 2K content like this, and I'm currently streaming Kingdom Hearts 3 on Saturdays and Sundays. This Sunday I'm actually going to be out of town during the beginning, but I may end up streaming it in the early evening. Haven't quite decided yet. I may use that day to try and get a head start on next week's 2K video, but we'll worry about that. Easiest way to figure that out is just subscribe to the channel, because I will talk about that near the end of this video. That's enough rambling for me. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. That's all for now. Until next time, take care, y'all.